Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome back to my shop. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Elbo II hollowing rig made by Tim Yoder. I started making hollow forms several years ago, and unfortunately around 2016 I was in a bicycle crash and I wound up breaking my collarbone, and then the handheld hollowing tools became kind of uncomfortable for me to use on any type of long-term basis. So I was looking for some type of rig that I could put onto my lathe, and I found what I thought was, a great fit for me was the Elbo tool by Tim Yoder. So here's the Elbo tool set up on my lathe, and this is the original Elbo tool. And you can see here it's attached to the quill with the clamp. And then we got 3 pieces of steel, and they're just bolted together, which creates an articulating arm. And on the end here is a hole that will accept a 3/4 inch hollowing bar. And there's adapters so you can use smaller tools as well. Okay, if you noticed here on that close-up, there's a hole here in this piece, and that's actually where the laser guide attached, but I've taken it off of this tool and I've put it on the new Elbo tool, which is now called the Elbo II, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Okay, so here we're back here, and now we have this Elbo II tool set up on the lathe, and I had to cut my head off to get the majority of this into the shot, but I'll go over all the different parts and everything, and what's different about this new setup, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so you can see right here it says Elbo II. Well, actually you probably can't see it, but it's engraved right here on this part, right? It's still the same type of articulating arm, okay, except that the front piece now can rotate 360 degrees completely around the piece, right? So that's kind of cool. It's very nice for being able to get into some tight places. Just like the other tool, right? It has the receiving end here will take a 3/4 inch hollowing bar, okay? And then there's adapters you can get. So there's adapters that you can get to convert. This is a 1/2 inch hollowing bar, so with the adapter attached, and the adapter will fit into that hole, okay? So this bar here is just a bar I had left over from the original Elbo tool, and I'm using it as a handle, and you can make your own handle, or you can buy the one that comes with it. But here's the setup, and here's the laser, okay? And you can see here the laser arm goes across the top. There's a little laser attached on this end, and that connects to a wire that gets plugged into a 110 outlet, okay? The way this gets mounted on the lathe, I'm going to have to change the camera angle to show you. So the way this gets mounted on the lathe is we have this base, right? And there's a piece of metal under here that fits in between the ways, right? And then we just have this clamp that just holds it in place, right? And the base comes in 2 different sizes. One for lathes that are an 11.5 inch swing to up to about a 19.5 inch swing, right? And so this is the base, okay? The second size would be for larger lathes that go from about a 19.5 to a 26.5 inch swing. This is the large base I have for my lathe. And then the actual tool itself just sits right in the base, okay? Okay, so once we have the base installed on the bed of the lathe, the tool starts here and is this post, and that drops into the base, and the height is adjusted for the size of your lathe, okay, using this stop collar. So there's instructions, and they're not really hard, but basically you want to get the center of the tool lined up with the center of the spindle, and you're using your tool rest to do that. But just, there's a set of instructions, and once you get that set properly, then you can lock these pieces in, right? So this stop collar keeps this piece from you know, slipping down any further. And then these two lock nuts just lock that in place. Okay, and so once we have that all centered up on the lathe, then we're ready to do hollowing. Once we get the base set up on the lathe, okay, and then we get the tool itself set up on the base, right, and we get that height adjusted with the stop collar, that's something you only have to do one time. It's a little finicky to get it all set up right, and like I said, there's very detailed directions on how to get it, so regardless of the position of the tool itself, okay, it'll still stay on center with your tool rest, you know, at the same height. So once you get that all set up, you just lock that stop collar down, and then, you know, every time you go to set back up again for your lathe, you just put the base on, you drop the tool in, and it's set up perfectly centered. So, I mean, that's great. I like that simple setup. The Elbo original was extremely simple setup, and this really isn't much different other than maybe that first time around. So, okay, so now that we talked about the tool itself and the setup, let's talk a little bit about the laser. Okay, so the upright or the vertical arm here for the laser, there's a hole here in this piece, and you know, there's a bolt that goes through here, and I just used the laser off of my old Elbo tool. So you can buy this in different packages and everything, so I just bought the basic package since I already had some parts from the other tool, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this upright is just bolted in with a set screw into this piece, and then it rises up to a crossbar or a horizontal piece, and that's what the laser is attached to. Okay, I changed the camera angle so you can see that horizontal piece, or the, you know, the crossbar. And you can see how it is held in place. It's just got some very simple, you know, easy adjustments, and this will let it slide. Okay, and on the side you can't see, but I got some Sharpie marks here depending on which tool I have actually in the jig itself. So but I can get a rough adjustment and then just tighten this down. Okay, and then any fine-tune adjustment for the laser itself is done over here with the same type of clamp, right? It's just one of these little clamp screws, and it just pinches this down, and you can see this has a lot of potential, you know, movement here, and I usually just kind of start with it in the middle. That way I have some play either way. But I got a tool in here, and I can show you, I'll get this turned on and I can show you the red dot and how I set this up on the, use the laser to set up on the tip of the tool. Okay, so from this angle you should be able to see the laser light on my hand, and it's just about at the tip of that tool. Okay, so that's not really the most advantageous spot for that laser light to be in, right? You're definitely going to want to set a gap between the laser, the dot, and the tip of the tool, depending on the wall thickness of your hollow form. Okay, so I mean, most of the time we're going for about 1/4 inch. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to that top little clamp and move that. All right, and you can see here I've moved that off a little bit. Now that's not 1/4 inch, it's probably about 1/8. So, but you can see where I've put the laser here, and I've put it off of this edge, right? And that's usually where I start out, is on this edge. And the reason being is because when I'm hollowing the top part of a hollow form, you know, near the opening, you know, the tip of the tool is going to be near the opening, which is up on this end here, okay? If I had the dot somewhere else, it really, I would wind up just puncturing through the piece. So as I'm doing the top, the laser light is usually about here. I'm going to loosen this clamp and move this kind of around. When I'm doing the side, I generally put the laser light about in this position. Wow, I can't get that to be, I'm holding this with my hand. Okay, here, let me just put it on there and just lock it down, I guess, instead of trying to wiggle it all around. Okay, so when I'm doing the sidewall, okay, generally that's the position of the laser, because just when the tool's inside there, this edge of the tip is basically then perpendicular to the sidewall, right? So I want to make sure that that gap remains constant from the top curve through the side and down to the bottom, okay? And when I'm doing down near the bottom, okay, and if I had a straight tool on here, and you know what, instead of just trying to show this, let me put a straight tool on and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about for doing the bottom. All right, so I usually wind up switching to the straight tool by the time I'm doing the bottom of a piece anyway. So I put the straight tool on so I could kind of show you this laser position. And I don't put it directly off the top of the tip. I just put it out to the side a little bit because the tool is actually inside the piece at an angle, right? So that'll kind of give me the wall thickness, you know, towards the lower end of the piece, but also it will give me a little bit of a cushion here towards the bottom. So as I'm getting down close to the bottom, I won't get too narrow. Okay, so we're just coming off of that at a little bit of an angle. Okay, but that's what I do. But you're definitely going to have to adjust the laser. If you're going to use a laser, you're going to have to adjust the laser beam and where it hits on the tool depending on what part of the hollow form that you're hollowing. Alright, so let me start off by apologizing for the change in the audio quality here. I had a little bit of a glitch with my microphone in the shop. So anyway, I'm just doing a real quick demo here with the laser on an actual piece. And you can see I'm lining up the measurement for the tip of the tool off to the side so I can do that upper shoulder. And you can see I got that mostly done, and I'm just actually just reducing that thickness. And then you can see here that the majority of that laser has fallen off the wood, and you can see it on the bed of the lathe. Okay. As I get around to that corner though for the side, you can see it got a little bit thicker there. So I'm going to have to reposition that laser off the tip. All right. I'll take a quick measurement here just to make sure that I have it the right 1/4 inch. Make some adjustments, and then I'll get to finish hollowing this piece out. All right, so you can see here that I'm going to smooth out this corner first. All right, and just try to get that corner nice and even with the top shoulder part that we did. And now you can see I'm just kind of going straight into the piece with little cuts. All right, so little cuts in, straight in, and I'll do like 3, 4, 5 of those, and then you'll see me smooth that out. Okay, and then 3 or 4, 5 cuts in, and then we'll smooth that section out just to make it even with the rest. And the laser really makes it easy to keep that wall thickness consistent. As I get closer to this lower third, I'll wind up switching out that hook tool for a straight tool. Okay, and then I'll position that laser dot so I can finish up the piece. So here you can see I got the straight tool in, and I'm working on the that lower third. And you can see the wood there is pretty thick. I leave the bottom fairly thick just to give the piece some stability. Right, and I'm whittling away at that wood, and as I get it closer to the edge, and I'll start being a little bit more careful and take little bites and then smooth it out, and then try to smooth that lower corner out. And you know, once we get that all done, then we're finished. So that's how you use the laser. All right, so just some real quick information, and I got this off of Tim Yoder's website, right? I mean, the bases, I think I mentioned that already. The base comes in 2 different sizes. The first size is the smaller size, and that's for lathes that have an 11.5 to a 19.5 inch swing. I mean, that's a pretty broad range, but you can see that the adjustment is there, and because of that that stop ring, or that that stop ring that's on there, and the larger sizes for 19.5 to 26.5 inch lathes, right? The bed length, according to Tim Yoder's website, isn't really going to matter. Apparently, you can use this on, you know, a very small bed lathe. If you have a really small lathe, I would actually maybe send him an email and make sure it's going to work for you. But for most, like a mid-size to a large-size lathe, it probably should be fine. And swings from 11.5 to 26.5 inches. Okay, so that's pretty good. I like that this the head on this rotates 360 degrees, where the old one didn't. So you can definitely get into some tighter spots with this. I mean, that's pretty cool feature. The tool slot for this is a 3/4 inch, but Tim makes adapters to fit 3/8 inch hollowing bars, 1/2 inch hollowing bars, and 5/8 hollowing bars. So regardless of what you have, you probably can get it to work with the Elbo II. Okay, according to the website, you should be able to hollow something up to 12 inches deep, depending on your skill level. Okay. I can tell you I've gone deeper than that. So maybe I'm pushing the envelope a little bit, but I've definitely hollowed at least 14 inches, maybe 15. But you really, that's, you know, very, very slow going, you know, slow and steady, right? So you definitely don't want to take a big bite, you know, with that hollowing bar that far off the tool rest, because the tool rest is really the support, okay, for the hollowing bar. All right. I guess that's pretty much it as far as the specs go from Tim. And then I guess likes and dislikes for me. And really a lot more likes than dislikes, to be honest. I mean, it's a great system. Unfortunately, I did break my collarbone a few years back, and I really had to stop hollowing until I found something that took a lot of the pressure off my arm. If you saw my video on hollowing by hand, you know, I hold that the handle of the tool under my arm, and that's putting a lot of pressure up on your shoulder, and this is my broken collarbone. And for most people it's a straight line. Mine's kind of S-shaped right now and a little bit arthritis, so it is what it is. So but this is great for me. So I've been using this Elbo II since it was released. I absolutely love it. It's my go-to out of my hollowing rigs, and I have another. The base is super heavy duty. The rig itself is, you know, very heavy duty compared to the original Elbo tool, which I love that. So, I mean, you know, I was hook, line, and sinker when they came out with a new version. I like that the laser itself, you know, if you're going to use the laser, I like that the laser, the way to adjust it is just these little screw clamps. I love that. It's super fast and super easy to get that laser set up so I can get into hollowing. Nothing complicated at all. To set up the height for the tip of the tool, it's just a quick adjustment on your tool rest. And that's it. So as long as you have like a little point to go to, and I would just put like a little dimple at the top of the hollow form, and then line up my tool off of that, right, before you start hollowing. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a Forstner bit and I'll drill out a chunk of that you know, piece, and I have an extension. So that little dimple end, usually it's buried deep down inside the piece, but I can just put the tip of the tool into that little dimple inside there and then just kind of adjust the rest, so I know I'm right on center. So, I mean, simple setup for the laser. It's really easy to use. You pretty much can use any tool with it. I have two different sets of hollowing tools. I have the 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch. And, you know, for smaller pieces, I use the 1/2 inch, and the thing works great. So yeah, dislikes. Wow. The one thing I really don't like about the Elbo II, and I don't really think you can get away with it regardless of what. So the jig itself has a range of motion, and then it won't go any further, right? I mean, you max this out, all right? So once it's maxed out, I mean, you can't really change the angle, and the only way that you can get to hollowing certain parts of that, you know, your hollow form, would be then to loosen the clamp on the base, and then slide the base either closer to the piece or further away from the piece, just so you can get the right angle to hollow, okay? So I guess that's maybe the biggest dislike that I have, but I don't really think there's a way around that, to be honest. To get around that, I've had, John Jordan has made me up shorter tools, and that helps. So instead of moving the jig, I will swap out maybe just to a shorter tool, which will give me maybe a better angle But yeah, you're definitely going to have to move the jig. Even with the original Elbo tool, you know, you had to move the tailstock in and out to hit certain spots. And usually it's that upper shoulder area, because that's usually the hardest spot to reach, and on certain shape vessels as well. So, but other than that, I mean, I really don't, you know, another negative is the wire, right? If you want to call it that. I mean, I love that I plugged this into the 110 because there's no batteries, right? I don't want to have to deal with batteries. Batteries, if they're dead, you got to replace them. If you inadvertently leave the laser on, then the batteries are going to drain. This, I have an outlet strip mounted on the leg of my lathe, and I just plug this in and it's ready to go every time. Now, sometimes it gets in the way, right? So you just got to be careful. I mean, you definitely don't want to pinch it in between these pieces, and then if you cut this, you're kind of screwed, right? So you don't want that to happen. But those, I guess, are my, you know, my biggest likes and dislikes. But overall, I mean, this is a home run. So, you know, matching up this Elbo II with some John Jordan tools, and to be honest, maybe I should mention that as a dislike, right? So the Elbo II, you can order it with a cutter, okay, or a hollowing bar. And I'm not a fan, right? Sorry, Tim, I'm not a fan. I've been using the John Jordan tools, and they're totally a home run. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you noticed or not, but you can see this bar here. This is, right now I'm using it for a handle, right? And it's great handle. It's a 3/4 inch bar. But where I got this from, this is the original Elbo Tools hollowing bar. So that's how much that I was not a fan, right? So I've repurposed it now as a handle. So John Jordan tools, 100%. Like I said, sorry, Tim. I mean, I'm just not a fan. So, okay, so enough of that. But those are probably my biggest likes and dislikes. And okay, and then finally, and you know, it's like it's the elephant in the room, right? I don't like talking about it, but it's the cost, right? What's this cost? So this comes in different packages, okay? You can just buy what they call the naked Elbo tool, Elbo II tool. Man, that's hard to say. And if you buy the naked tool, right, it just comes with the jig itself and the base. No handle, no hollowing bar, no laser, and that's $475, right? And you can buy everything, the entire package, which would then come with a handle and the hollowing bar and the laser setup, and that's $660. And you can get almost every configuration in between, or mix and match parts, right? The bases are sold separate if you want to do that. You can buy a handle, not buy a handle. You can buy something later. You can add the laser later if you want. If I remember right, it's about $150 to get the laser set up. It might be a little bit less than that, but you'd have to go to the website and check it out. And I guess we should do a link to the website. So let's put a link to the website. At least I have it for the meeting. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description of the video. Okay, so that's like a little introduction to the Elbo II by Tim Yoder, right? I love it. It's my go-to jig. It's what I use, I guess, 90% of the time. I loved the original Elbo tool, right? And like I said, when this thing was introduced and came out, I was very excited about it. And I bought it as soon as it was released. So it's an awesome jig for hollowing. And like I said, in combination with John Jordan's hollowing tools, you're hard pressed for, you know, doing, you know, anything, you know, hollowing maybe about 10 to 12 inches deep at max, or anything smaller. I think this is a total home run. You know, anything much larger than that, and you're going to kind of need a whole different setup. So, all right. So I hope you liked watching the video. If you did, and you have any questions, please ask. And I guess that's it for now.